This is Christy from My Therapy Hat podcast, and thank you for listening. And I have a special guest today, Miriam. And Mike is always in the background, so we can talk to him too. So, Miriam, today I brought a couple topics here, and one of them I wanted to bring in was pride. Now, I know that we're going to talk about pride in another way, but this is Pride Month. So do you have any plans? Do you celebrate Pride Month? Do you acknowledge Pride Month?
I don't have any plans, but that is my opinion in Pride Month is everybody live how they want to be, who they want to be.
Love is love.
Yeah.
Love who you want. Doesn't bother me.
Be happy.
Doesn't bother me one bit.
Mm-hmm.
Love. So your stepdad and I went to Pride Month in San Francisco last year. It was amazing. I'm telling you, I got a little teary-eyed because there's just people just being themselves, you know? And there were guys, like dad guys with shirts on that said dad hug. You know, like they would give dad hugs to these people that needed like a dad, or there was one mom hug, you know? And I was like, oh my God, we need to get those. So when we came home, I was like, I'm going to pride us out. Let me tell you, I have a sarong that's like pride colors. He has a sarong that's black with pride colors around it. And so I don't know if we're going to get to go to San Francisco this year for Pride, but it was, Micah has an ally.
I didn't even know that this was the topic of the day.
He has an ally t-shirt on with all the Pride colors. I appreciate Pride Month. I respect, you know, the LGBTQ. I respect them. I respect, because there's a lot of issues that they have to, they face that I may never have to face, or, you know, that I may never even have to have thought of. And it's a brave thing to just go to the Pride Month, the celebration stuff, and just be able to be yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I really, it was touching to me.
I'll definitely be going this year to take pictures.
Oh, heck yeah. So when we were there,
colors.
I took a picture of the flags, and that's like one of my favorite pictures that I got. And then there was just, people were just so like free and just being themselves and just celebrating. And I loved it.
Yeah.
It was fun. So
Pride is, you know, one of the 7 deadly sins.
Hey.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Ever since you said that that's what we were talking about today, that was all that was on my mind.
Pride is a 7 deadly sin?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what are the other ones?
I talked about this with Sarah's family this weekend. There's gluttony, there's lust, there's greed, there's fury.
What?
Like
fury?
Fury, like angry.
Oh, fury.
What is that?
Okay.
Is that 4 or 5? Pride,
I don't know, I
gluttony,
wasn't counting.
Greed, fury, lust.
You said that. Are we just going over them again? You just
No,
like
I'm
keep
trying
naming
to.
them?
I'm trying to
Just
count
counting.
them now.
He's counting.
We just keep naming them. We just keep going over and over and over.
I don't know the other two. The other two always escape me. But yeah, it's one of the 7. When she had told me that, I was like, "That's weird."
Pride?
You can't be like proud of yourself.
Well, so that's what we're going to talk about along with this topic. So I just want to say Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month. Just, you know, love is love, man. Just do it. So with that said, again, I like to bring topics in that have been brought up in therapy sessions, and pride was one of them. So I did a little research today. Pride is a noun. Didn't know if you knew that. And it said, when I Googled the definition, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. We just talked about achievements and feeling accomplished. The achievements of those with whom one is closely associated with, or from quantities or possessions that are widely admired. So I think there's a lot to that there.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in that statement. But so I broke it down a little bit because there's positive and negative pride. And I think that's where the 7 deadly sins would come in, would be the negative pride.
Yeah.
So what is your experience with pride, feeling prideful? Miriam.
Pride. I see that you put here where it says he swallowed his pride and asked for help. I think pride in that is a big thing for a lot of people. Especially when we're battling with our own
Internal
problems.
demons.
Yep. We always want to do things on our own, and it's hard to reach out. So I think people take pride in wanting to do things on their own, and it gets hard. I think that's something that I've dealt with, reaching out for people,
Asking for help. Well, and I put down there on these little notes here, he swallowed his pride and asked for help. That was one of the quotes that, was added with the definition. But the words that kind of describe pride are self-esteem, self-respect, ego, self-worth, self-image, self-identity, self-regard. A lot of self there. Self. And in addition to pride, then we have shame. And with those words, the words that are associated with shame were very negative. Arrogance, vanity, self-importance, hubris, self-conceit, conceitedness, self-love. Again, we have a lot of the selves, which I don't think self-love is bad, to be honest with you. There's self-admiration. Now, I might admire myself, but I'm not going to sit in the mirror and like, oh my God, Christy, you're so great. That might be going a little overboard. Narcissism, egotism. So there's a lot of like the negative snobbery. I mean, the list just goes on. But I want to know like why you think those words are associated with like the negative pride and shame.
Self-admiration and self-love, I think those two can be a little like on the line. Self-admiration, like somebody that says like I went to Yale and I did this, and they like their ego is very high up there,
very grandiose, and very narcissistic.
And to where self-admiration, it could be very positive as well, where it's like I did that, I accomplished that. I think it's the way you word things too.
It's how you hold yourself.
Meaning what?
It's like what she had said, oh, I went to Yale and blah 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 blah, or it's just like, I graduated. What would you graduate from? Doesn't matter, we're in the same room together.
Exactly.
Like that's what it really is like, okay, well, this person who graduated from Yale is holding their standards a lot higher. They think they're sitting on a pedestal or standing on a pedestal over there, but really in reality, we're all in the same room together.
They're a lot more prideful in like a negative way.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I see what both of you are saying, whereas like, again, like I've had to sit in rooms with my clients who are, I might have a lawyer, a doctor. I might have someone who really is like, I would really like, I admire this person, what they've accomplished. I know what it takes, because sometimes I think me as a therapist, and we're going back to like the last podcast was like imposter syndrome. I see these people that are, a doctor, a lawyer, and I'm like, wow, you must really know your shit,
Accomplished.
And then there's me, But I've had to sit in rooms with them and level that playing field. I've had clients of that stature who have actually like looked down on me, and I've been like, hold on, but you're here asking for my help. Let's dial it back just a little bit, because that's again, it might be the fact that some of these were men. I'm a woman, so there could be that dynamic, but a lot of it too is like what you're saying, like, well, I'm a lawyer. I don't give one shit if you're a lawyer. You're here asking me for help. I need to help you, and you need to be honest with me. You need to be vulnerable, which is really hard for someone who has a lot of pride and who holds that, well, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, doesn't matter. You're still a person underneath all of that.
I like to think of like physical or material things to kind of like compare it. It's like when someone's like, well, I'm a lawyer. All right, well, your degree is the same printed paper as my degree. Or like when someone walks into where I work, well, I'm this person, yet you're asking me to help you send an email. Okay, let's dial it back a little bit here, bud.
Yeah.
Like let's put it in perspective a little bit for you. Now, that might be rude to someone. It may come off as like a little rude, but it's like, okay, but you're coming at me that way. So I'm just kind of dishing back at what you're doing here, bringing you down a little bit, because we're both at the same level. We're both people. We're both humans. We both need help, but it's just a matter of now you're asking for it type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, so when someone comes in like that, because when that was being said to me, I automatically realized there's a defensiveness. I need to prove that this is who I am. This is what I am. This is what I know. I need to prove to Christy. You don't have to prove a damn thing to me.
Mm-mm.
You know, so automatically you see that ego coming in. And there is this, and there's nothing wrong. If you're a lawyer, be a lawyer. If you're a doctor, congratulations, man. I would not want to go through, you know, I don't want to do that. But there's a difference in congratulations, you're a doctor, or yeah, I'm a doctor, and I'm a doctor. You know,
Yeah.
there's a difference in that. And it's like, I think how Micah said, it's how you carry yourself. It's how you
Mhm.
present that. But then again, like when we look at pride, I've had people, you know, well, shouldn't I have pride in that?
Should you?
Well, and I've said to people, there's a difference in having pride in my accomplishment and how I've accomplished something, and the fact that I did this, and well, I'm proud because I accomplished this, and you should be proud, you know, and kind of like exerting that over someone, or
Yeah.
holding that over someone, like, well, you should praise me because look what I accomplished. Well, big deal what you accomplished. Does it benefit me? Does it pay my bills? No. And like you said, Micah, we're all just human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We're all just trying to get from A to B.
Doesn't matter if you're driving an Audi,
Oh God!
Or if you're
we have to
driving
bring up the Audi
or
again.
if you're driving a little Fiat.
Well, now I drive a Fiat. Now why are you gonna be making fun of Fiat?
But it doesn't matter what you're driving. That's what I'm trying to say here, Bob.
All right, well, I drive a Fiat, so vroom, vroom, vroom. All right.
Doesn't matter what you're driving. It's a matter of if you're getting from A to B.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're all people trying to get from A to B. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's me, you know, thinking of material, physical things, like I had said earlier.
Oh my God.
Doesn't matter if you're driving a Fiat or you're driving an Audi.
We all know that I want an Audi. Why do we have to keep talking about the Audi? Okay. She's got a Fiat. The Fiat's paid off. It's in the garage. She's good. She's fine. She's a little tiny. Zoom, zoom.
Someone
Okay.
a little defensive.
I am a little defensive right now.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. Yeah. There's no shame in my game. I drive you now. I almost said Audi. Oh my God. I'm being competitive now. I'm being all like, I want an Audi. No. So, my glasses just fell off. Look, I'm falling apart. I'm just falling apart over here.
I broke her.
You broke my heart, Micah. So, talking about pride, and I said shame plays into that. And so, how do you think that shame plays into, or how has it played into it for you? If you've been prideful, or if you've encountered someone with a lot of pride.
I have. Working in the mental health, how you say, we do get a lot of people that have degrees and things like that. There was a situation where what would you call it, like a med tech, so
Mhm.
just, you know,
Yeah.
nothing, CNA
Yeah.
basically. And there was a nurse, so she was very defensive towards me, to where she cornered me to the garage area, and she was like, you're nothing, you don't know what you're doing, like, I need that medication. Of course, you know, when we know they're med seeking and things like that, right?
Mhm.
They're trying to play us into giving them the medications they want, things
Mhm.
like that. So I'm like, look, I know you're furious, you're mad, let's go somewhere else, we could talk about this.
Let's take this
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. So that put me in a situation where I was kind of in a, wow, she's right, but like,
Did
how
you
you
shame
say,
yourself?
Yeah.
Because, like, what, you felt like you should have known? Or
not
should've
that I
done
should
better,
have known,
or-
it was more of a type of position.
Oh, so like
Yeah.
the power play.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where it played into.
Mhm.
And I want to say for like a whole month, it just played in my head, until one day I was like, you know what? I see so many people coming here that they're in different positions,
Mhm.
they're here to help me. That's where I put myself in their position as well. Like, I don't know what she could have gone through. I don't
Mhm.
know. But that helped me kind of level myself to where I was like, that's not something to be ashamed of. It's just, that was a situation for me.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of shameful that I got put on that situation.
Because of someone else's role or position or
Yeah.
power over you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that can cause like us to feel shamed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, again, like when people come in, like, we're talking about the mental health and working with clients and stuff. When people come in, my goal with this person, it's rapport building, really,
Mm-hmm.
and I never want anybody to walk away feeling judged or shamed. And that's one of the things that I tell people, because we get people that they'll drop a word here and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, I do not ever want you to apologize, because I'm not going to sit here and judge. Oh my God, did you hear that Miriam said the F word? Oh my God. I'm not going to judge you, because that's the thing that I've learned. We shame ourselves. Like you're saying, in this situation, there was a shame that came over you. We get shamed.
Mm-hmm.
We get judged. And that, again, like that can cause me to feel very, like prideful. Like if I'm constantly being judged, I might have to act like I'm proving myself, so that I'm not being judged, or so that I am like this, this almighty, I'm a therapist, no. I don't have to like inflate myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no need for anyone that sits with me to feel like they have to inflate themselves. They have to, present this bigger, better, badder person, So yeah, have you ever felt a situation where you've been shamed, or, oh my God, did I ever shame you?
All the time.
Oh my God, Micah, my poor baby.
No, a lot of it, I mean, I like to bring photography up because, let's, for example, when I went to Mozambique and we went on a safari.
Mozambique is in Africa?
It's in Africa. And I still had my beginner camera that I had with my beginner lens. Didn't know really anything. I had two lenses. One was like, oh, it can go in it can zoom in a little bit more. My other one was like, this one can't zoom at all. And then we go on the safari and I'm looking over at probably like National Geographic photographers.
With these big,
Yeah.
huge.
They have, and now that I know prices of lenses and I research them and everything, they have like $10,000-$20,000 lenses on maybe a $6,000 camera, and I'm like, man, gosh, what the hell am I doing? Like, what?
How much was your camera, Micah?
My camera was like $400.
Still a lot of money for a camera.
$400 came with its own lens. It came with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a whole kit.
How old were you, Micah?
I was 19.
And how old were these National Geographic
They
people?
had gray hairs.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
They had earned.
They had earned that spot. They had earned that camera. But then it's like, okay. And then nowadays I have my camera. I upgraded since then. But now I'm like, okay, well, now do I want another camera? Do I want to upgrade again? I see my friend over here has a better camera than I do. But then for me as a photographer, it's funny to talk to a photographer because they'll be like, oh, well, the specs on my camera, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't care about the specs on your camera. I just feel. They're like, well, what's about your camera? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I thought it was a good camera. It was a lot better than my last one. And they're like, yeah, but what about it? And I'm like, okay, I know now that this person, they bought this maybe $3,000, $4,000 camera with maybe a $4,000 lens. And I have something that's maybe a fraction of that. But to them, they're prideful of that. To me, I don't care about all of the specs that go into it or anything. If I take a picture and it looks good and I edit it and it looks amazing, that's all that I care about. But there's a lot of people who it's a material thing for them. Like it's having that $6,000
that number
camera.
or that I've spent this much.
So like when people ask me, I wanna get into photography, what should I get? I'm like, honestly, just get anything. Doesn't matter what camera it is, doesn't matter the brand, doesn't matter the lenses, just get something and start.
I'm gonna show up with a Polaroid.
Do it.
How's this, Micah?
That's fun. That's
Found it at a secondhand store.
that'll be fun. Do it. But then when I tell them that, they're like, well, that's no help. I'm like, it's not. It's really not, because you have to figure out your own way about going it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it comes with a bunch of pride too. Is like when you start getting into it, you need to look back at yourself, reflect, and be like, okay, do I want to be that person who's like, I have a $5,000 camera, and I took a picture of this insect over here
From 8 miles away.
from 8 miles away. What are you doing? It's like, I don't know, dude. I just took a picture of the plant outside. I thought it looked pretty cool because the sun was hitting it. It's like, well, whatever.
Congratulations. I'm with National Geographic.
Yeah. So it's like, and it's just how my brain works. I like to think of physical things to compare it when it comes to like prideful stuff. I just bought a $4,000 house. Okay, well, I'm still renting.
$4,000. Wow, I could buy like 5 houses then.
Oh, sorry, $400,000.
Okay, I was gonna say,
like,
wow, a lot
$400,000
of us could have a lot of houses there, my God.
But it's also like, I forgot which one of you had said it. It's about which stage are they at in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hitting that a lot now where I'm 25, but I'm hanging out with people that are also my age, but they're also doing all these other things. This person just bought a house. Should I be buying a house right now? I was like, no. I can't afford a house. So it's about the stage as well, too. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
this person has a $6,000 camera,
Mm.
but they're also 20 years older than me. They've been doing it for 20 years.
Well, and back to like, sure, this person's a doctor, but you're sitting here in recovery.
Exactly.
You know?
You could be a nurse, but you sitting here asking me for the drugs is kind of telling me why you are here.
Mm-hmm. And so again, like you said a lot of things, because in that, like, I heard pride in like your accomplishments, what you've accomplished, and how you look at things, and you kind of, and that's where I have to kind of like say to myself, okay, so you've only been doing, a clinical director now for 2 years. Of course, you're not going to know all of this that people have been doing this for 20 years. No, because I thought about that the other day. There was this clinical director that I was just like, oh my God, I wish I could be like this person. He'd just sit in his office and play his guitar. And, I'm like, but dude, he was like, then like a year later, he like retired. And I'm like, so why would I want to be like him? Like, I have so much to do. I might bring some crocheting into my office though. So we might get a crocheting circle going. But I was like,
guitar.
and I'll get a guitar. I mean, whatever we want to do. I don't know. Bling, 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 bling. We'll have a music, like a band. Mm-hmm. We'll have a, therapy band. But I thought about that as I was doing something the other day, and I was like, what am I doing? Like he a year later he retired. Like, of course he was like playing his guitar. He's on the way out.
He's ready.
He's done.
Hey, can you do that? I'll get on it.
Bling, 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 bling. Like, all right, well, maybe today. Thanks a lot. I'll just figure it out myself. Got it. So, but I mean, when I think of like my career, what I've accomplished, I have to look at it as like what we were talking about earlier. There have been things that happened that I've had to look back and go, okay, but what did I learn? Mm-hmm. How could I do that better? What should I have done? How should I have said this? And we were talking earlier, like there's like a pride in the fact that every time you do something a little better, you've accomplished that, or you tried, you put yourself out there. That's a healthy pride.
Yeah. Having
pride in these accomplishments, but not holding it over anyone's head. I had someone one time that was offended at the fact that I have a master's degree.
That's a first.
Oh, no.
No, first for me hearing that.
First for you hearing that?
Yeah.
Well, so this person was offended by the fact that I had a master's degree and was like, now never did I flaunt, well, I have the master's degree.
Welcome into my office. Right there hanging on the wall is my master's degree. Take a seat. where you can look at my master's degree.
I have a light pointing on it. We just look at it.
Hold on,
We
let me
read
dim the
it.
lights. Sorry, there's a light on my master's degree.
This is how this person made me feel. And so it gets brought to my attention. And I said, well, hold on. I'm saying this to, someone that came to me and we were talking about it. And I said, do I have a master's degree hanging around my neck right now? And this person was like, no. And I said, where is my master's degree? At this point, it wasn't even out of the box. Like, it wasn't hanging on the wall. And I said, this person that you're talking about acts like I carry it around. Master's degree right here. Excuse me, master's degree.
Christy, master's degree walking through the
I said,
hallway.
never does that ever come out. It's something I accomplished. It's something I'm proud of. I said, never do I ever start a sentence with me and my master's degree. I was like, so why is this person so offended? I said, if they want to go get a master's degree, go get one. It's not like it was just handed to me. But that's where I'm thinking, like, I'm proud of the fact that I accomplished that. But then there's people who have tried to shame me for the fact that I accomplished that. And it's like, well, hold on. You can't have it both ways. You can't have someone who's a therapist that doesn't have a master's degree. I mean, how ethical would that be? But that's where, again, I look at it like, I held that as like, that's something I accomplished. It's not something I flaunt around, I think when you do that, when you my $6,000 camera, my $100,000 master's degree, who wants to pay $100,000 for a master's degree? I mean, I'm just saying, Okay, but when you do that, you do elevate yourself to where people are automatically, that shames people. And I told this person who brought this to my attention, I said, I would never focus on that. That's how I got this job. I would never focus on that. But if this person is so focused on that, you need to be asking that person why.
Yeah.
Why that's their focus. Instead of Christy has a master's degree, so she could be a therapist, so this is what she can do. And so, again, like, shame can come from both ways. It can come from other people's opinions of us, and it can come from our own opinions of ourselves. Shame can be both ways, and pride can be both ways. You can have, so we've talked about the healthy and the unhealthy. There's positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the positive and negative. So when this client came to me and was like, well, should I not have pride in that? Absolutely, you should have pride in what you've accomplished. You should never like push it onto someone else that they now should have pride in you or be proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But do you have any other way of looking at that? Like, should other people be proud of your accomplishments? And
should other people be proud of my accomplishments? Yeah. Not to the extent where
They're holding it against you.
Yeah.
They're weaponizing it.
Yeah. I think, like,
but don't you think if someone's weaponizing it, and because this is how I felt when that whole situation happened, I was really like confused about the whole situation. I was like, had I been that person that, like I said, flaunted it and announced it and wore it around my neck like a badge of honor, I can understand someone holding that against me. Hey, Christy, you need to kind of put the master's degree down, but me just having it and never saying anything, it was almost like it was a reverse. Like there was shame in reverse almost. Or like this person was shaming me for something I accomplished.
The way I see it, like when you're talking about it, the way I see it is like the only time this is from my opinion, that I would feel that type of way towards someone is if I'm comparing myself to someone.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe that I can't do that, and it's kind of like hating what you're doing, but I'm also hating myself.
But I'm not willing to go do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I took it. And that's why I said to this person, I was like, if this person wants to go get a master's degree, be my guest. Because it's not like it was just handed to me one day. And when I said that, I was leveling with this person who also had a master's degree. And I asked this person, I said, was yours handed to you? Because mine wasn't. And this person kind of like thought back, and I could see on her face, and she was like, well, no. And I said, so how would it feel if I sat here and shamed you because you've had your master's degree longer than me? And she just kind of well, I wouldn't like that. And I said, so how do you think I like this?
Yeah.
I'm put in this position, I'm put in this role, but yet I'm being shamed by someone who is judging me,
Yeah.
you know, for something I accomplished. And that again, like when this client said, well, should I be proud of that? Yes, you should be proud of what you've accomplished. We should all be proud of what we've accomplished. But if I hold it over someone or I hold it against someone, well, look what I've accomplished. You haven't accomplished that, Miriam.
You start putting yourself on a little pedestal, a little
You might,
imaginary pedestal. Maybe you need to look at yourself in the mirror a little bit.
You need to see if, am I shaming other people because they're not at my level, or they're not living up to my expectations or my accomplishments. And we're getting ready to work with kids.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, just because I have a kid sitting here, I think sometimes parents do that. They kind of shame a kid that's in a position right now because they're not thinking of how it's going to look later, or like the parent has this experience of it. So I know, and I'm going to tell you how to do it, but that kid winds up feeling shamed. Does that make sense? Because that's one thing that I noticed when I was raising my kids. I couldn't tell them, well, this is how it was when I was 16. He's 16 now and not when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to say something like that, it was almost like a shaming, like, well, I've done this and this is where I've been. You can't do it, and it's almost like then I put into that kid's head that you shouldn't have pride in what you're doing now, or how you're accomplishing it now, or what it's going to take for you to get there now.
I have a situation similar to that too, where I was talking to my mom one time and I was letting her know, like, okay, I'm how old? 18, and I don't have kids. I don't, I'm not out there living my life. I'm responsible as I can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think she kind of took it in a defensive to where she felt like I was throwing her under the bus, like saying she had me when she was younger.
Oh,
she didn't
you
have
were
a lot of
judging
things.
her.
Yeah, so it kind of like did that little flip to where I never meant it like that, but she always held it against me, So yeah, like I can see where like the parents can, that like situations where a parent has already gone through that situation and they're like,
has already experienced it.
Yeah, but it's different situations, different times, different eras, social media things.
Yeah, different influences, factors, and like with your mom, there may have been something that she was hanging on to. Like maybe she didn't get to do what she's seeing you, the daughter, doing it and thinking, man, if I hadn't had kids so early, or if I hadn't got married, and that's another thing. Like we shame ourselves too.
Yeah.
We bring that on ourselves. Cause now again, I'm going back to comparing myself. And that's another thing that I've heard people do, is comparing themselves against their younger kids. They're like, well, this is a younger version of myself. Well, yeah, but this is like, actually, like, I would never compare myself to my daughter. She's like, I don't know. I think your sister's brilliant. I think she's brilliant. She's funny. She's beautiful. I can see if I wasn't as like confident in myself and as comfortable with who I am now, I could see how her doing and being who maybe I wanted to be, or what I wanted to be, I could see how that could be like a comparison, and I could have some shame against that, because she has gone and done far more than I ever did. But like what you're saying with your mom, there's almost like this, like, I'm going to shame myself, or I'm going to be defensive, so that now you see it a different way too. And so when she said that to you, did you you said you got defensive, but did you kind of start to see it from your mom's perspective, or did it take you a while?
It took me a while to even see what I thought she was. I was thinking about myself, like, why would she even tell me that? Like, why, I felt hurt, and I was like, why would you tell me that? But later on in life, I realized, like, maybe she just wanted to do something different. Maybe it was something that happened that she wishes she could do different. I don't know, something different for her. And it wasn't so much about her trying to put me down in that situation. Well, but in miscommunication as well.
Exactly. And in that, that's again like where I can have that healthy pride in my kids. Like I said, I think my kids are brilliant and funny and beautiful and handsome. And I think their significant others are too. But then there could be that where I flip that to where like now that's all I see, or I want you to see that. And if you don't see that in my son, then you and I can't be friends. You know, there could be that where pride can be a very tricky thing, and it's all in how we use that noun. And that's the thing that I learned. One of the way to that I learned like a healthy pride was I had to learn humility. I had to learn actually the true definition of humility. And this goes back to like when I'm in my internship, I'm a baby therapist, I'm at Salvation Army, and this guy comes in and he's just, I mean, he was just, I don't know if it was overconfidence or if it was like a conceitedness, but it just, I was like, whoa, he really like, wow, like how do I slow this person down in their thought process, you know? And so he's talking and he touched on something. And one of the words that he dropped to me was humility and pride. And he kept saying, and one of the things that I've learned, and you probably have too, if the people keep repeating these words, there's a theme.
Yeah.
That's my theme. That's what we're going to talk about. So he kept dropping these words and I was connecting humility, or being humble was his thing. Confident, pride, you know, all these things. And I was like, hold on. So I gave him the homework. I said, I want you to ask 5 of your peers their definition of humility. He's like, okay, well, what's that going to do for me? See, right there. Okay. And I was like, well, I just want you to get other people's opinions. I want you to hear from other people how they experience humility. And I said, so when we come back next week, I said, I'll have my definition of humility. So I went home that night and I went on a walk and I'm like, holy damn, now I got to figure out like humility. How am I humble? Am I humble? You know, and I started really like inflecting. And I came up with just like my, you know, like I can be proud of myself. Again, like what we're saying, like this healthy, I can be proud of myself. I can't expect you to be proud of me. I can have confidence in myself because of the things I've accomplished, but I can't expect you to like respect that confidence or like, you know, I can't like be showboaty about it. And I can't remember how, you know, when we came back and we started discussing, and he came back with a completely different attitude. Like he had heard these people talk about humility and he's like, you know what, Christy, I'm not very humble. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Duh. and so, well, duh. That's kind of why I gave you the homework. But go ahead. You know, and so I was like, well, what do you mean? And so as he started talking, he goes, you know, and I always thought like, because I'm so proud, and he started using it again, because I'm so proud of these, you know, da. And he had been gang affiliated and just different drugs and just different things like that. He goes, and I always use that as like my badge of honor, like my pride. He goes, I realized those aren't really things for me to be proud of. Those are things for me to have learned from. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay. But that's what it is. Humility is like taking that experience, learning from that, knowing that that's my accomplishment. That's not something I hold against you or I shame you with or I judge you with. And when he said that, then I was like, oh, shoot. So do I need to like share my, you know, and he's like, no, I think I got it. And he goes, but you could share it if you want. And I did, and I shared it, and I can't remember what it was. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I just really realized like, I really need to, I can be proud of myself, but I can't be proud of like these negative, bad things that I did and keep like glorifying them. Yeah. And I said, and that's just it, because you're here to get help. You're here because something wasn't working. So we really, he and I actually had a really good, long-lasting therapeutic relationship. And I just really got to see this person go from, like I said, just this cocky, you know, holy God, what just came into my office, to like this person that I really enjoyed meeting with. And that again was like, when I shared with this client recently, pride. You can have pride in the things you accomplish and in things you do and the things that you're going to do. And like you can build people up by the things that they've accomplished, but we don't hold things over. Like, oh, I'm better than you because I did this. No, that to me, that's just gross. So pride, Pride Month. Negative pride, positive pride.
Seven
Happy
deadly
pride,
sins, pride.
7 deadly sins, pride. Pride. Is there anything you'd like to say to close, Miriam?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Well, it was so fun having you here, and I cannot wait to start working with you again. Are you excited?
Soon. Yes.
Very soon.
Very
Very soon. And thank you, Micah, for coming on not a Wednesday. We just kind of had to throw this in here because, again, I was like sicker than a dog last week and died 3 times and then, resurrected myself. And so here I am. But you're welcome. A little bit of pride there. Did it myself. Thank you for listening. This has been My Therapy Hat podcast with Miriam, Micah, and myself, Christy. You can listen on Spotify, YouTube, follow on Instagram, and Threads. Thank you. Because again, like I said, I'm threading again. I'm yarning. We need to make one that's called Yarns.